Hi, it's your old friend Sarah. All right, here we go. And I'm nominated for a Grammy for, just keep that part. That will be very endearing, right? Hi, it's Sarah Silverman. Hi, I'm Sarah Silverman. Why is this hard suddenly? I like that, he just drops it. Hi, I'm Sarah Silverman, and I'm nominated for Best Comedy Album for the Grammys. I didn't grow up in New York. I grew up in New Hampshire, but I remember always my friends' parents would say, are you from New York? And I'd go, what's New York? I'm from here, you know? And then I turned 18 and I moved to New York, and I was like, oh my God, I am from New York. My mom listened to comedy albums. She had a Woody Allen double album, Albert Brooks -1, Comedy -1, Alan Sherman records too, and also Monty Python record. There was a Monty Python record. We would sing I'm a Lumberjack and I'm Okay. And then I fell in love with Steve Martin very early on. And you know, I read everything I could find about him. And I actually, on the ceiling, I had a little bedroom in the attic of our house, and on the ceiling in pencil I wrote, I love Steve Martin. I had some trouble in school. I didn't go to it. In my freshman year of high school, it wasn't because I was cool or something. I was just scared. I really was gonna quit school. I had a job interview to be a housekeeper at a Sheridan, and my dad picked me up and he threw me in his car and he threw me into school, a new school. And it was like a college preparatory school. And I was so angry, but I really fell in love with this school. On Friday and Monday, there'd be a assembly. Yeah, and after a while, they would let me do 2 or 3 minutes of stand-up. I'd write stand-up about school and class and teachers. It was a great school, and I just learned so much. They encouraged critical thinking, and I really learned that. They didn't want you to spit back things you memorized there. They wanted you to take in information and have your own opinion on it. And it just really prepared me for the world so well, you know. When I think about a big break, being on Conan. Like, Conan had his show and he let me come on, and instead of doing stand-up, he'd have me be on the couch, you know, as like the last guest. And I would do stand-up, you know, but through talking with him, I would try new things. You know, like I built probably a whole special just coming up with stuff for Conan appearances. And it was the first time I got recognized on the street, like, oh, you're on Conan, I see you on Conan, you know? My first Grammy nomination was for my book, reading my book for spoken word, The Bedwetter. What's the byline? Stories, oh my God, look at this. Stories of courage, redemption, and pee. The comedy album is called PostMortem, and it was just the experience of losing my dad and my stepmom 9 days apart, and the whole experience of it and who they were. It's something that everybody faces, which is death. And it's always a surprise, even though it's guaranteed. It was cathartic, and it was something that it seemed to connect with people more than any other special I'd done. You know, I always say comedy is an evergreen. I think that this is probably the most evergreen I'll get, you know, because it is something that we're not gonna be able to run from ever, no matter how much we try. Uncomfortable is my sweet spot. Let's get awkward. It's just awesome getting nominated for a fancy thing like the Grammys for your work. And I grew up with comedy albums, so like for a comedy album, it feels so full circle. You know, I lost my parents, which was what this last comedy album was about. But I promise it's funny. But they're the ones I would always tell, you know. It's funny. You never get too old to be devastated by losing your parents, because you're just like, that's who gets all the nachas. Did I say that right? For the good stuff that happens, you know.